I think to truly be a leader, you have to care about the entire person. Everybody brings something into the office every day, and they leave with something every day. You got to get to know your people and the insides and outs and everything about them that you can, because you're going to make them a better employee by caring about their personal lives and caring about the things that's going on. Yes, there's a time and place, and you got to leave things at the door to some extent. But I've seen too many examples where leaders didn't know their team's kids' names, and it just became so impersonal. I want people to run through a wall for me, and vice versa. So in order to do that, you've got to show genuine caring for people.
All right, and we're live. Welcome back to the Leading Well podcast series by Blemish, where our focus is to develop a platform for leaders who are passionate about creating workplaces that feel good and work better. And so today we have another episode, and I'm excited for today's guest. I have Skip Maloney, CHRO at InterDigital, on with me today. Skip, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing, Christian?
Doing well. Thank you for your time today, Skip, and for your willingness to share your wisdom and your insights. I really appreciate it. So let's kick this thing off. Let's just why don't you start by sharing with your audience who you are and what was your journey to get to where you are today in HR?
Sure. Well, it's probably a long story. I've got a few gray hairs. I started my career actually in sales long time ago, and I actually don't think sales has left me. I still run my function very much like a sales organization, but I started in recruiting back in the day. So I started in the agency side and called on companies, did that whole thing, place candidates and all that, and then I eventually moved over to the corporate side and still stayed within recruiting. So I stayed within that branch, if you will, and but on the corporate side. And then I had a great mentor of mine, someone I looked up to, still do, David Bertelli, his name is, from Mercury Computer Systems, where it was one of the first roles I took from the agency side, and he exposed me to all levels of HR, and I like to think he saw something in me. I don't know, but I think he wanted to round out my experience. I didn't want to be so specialized. So from there, I kind of grew up at Mercury Computer Systems. Still think about that company very fondly, and then moved into more of a leadership role at HR at Brooks Automation, and then NetScout, Aspen Tech. I hope I didn't forget anything. Oh, Excellent, yeah. But really grew into that space and really kind of found my calling was really in leadership. I like to tell people I'm a leader first, HR second. So, but yeah, kind of came. That was the pathway I took.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's awesome. And what I'm hearing here is it sounds like there's been a common theme of you being in leadership roles in HR for tech companies.
Yeah.
So how do you think? Yeah, how do you think that specific niche differs from, let's say, HR other industries?
Well, I've been in medical device space as well. I've been in manufacturing space, but the common link throughout my career and with all those organizations is every single one of them was a very cerebral organization, meaning I was surrounded with where I'm from, wicked smart people, very, very smart people around me. And I've always been in awe of them, just some highly, highly technical people, including especially where I'm at now at InterDigital. I'm surrounded by some of the best minds in the industry. So I've always been attracted to that.
Nice.
I've always been drawn to that. So that was sort of, when I've looked at opportunities and things like that, I think that was the one of the first things I looked at was, who am I going to be surrounded with? I tell my children this all the time. You are who you spend time with. And so anyway, that's probably been the common theme.
Nice. That's super cool. And one thing that you didn't share in what you spoke so far, but something we talked about earlier is that you have a sports background.
Yeah. Yeah. A million years ago. My knees would argue against that. I did. But yeah, no, I played baseball at professional level for a little while and got hurt. I got hurt at a very young age. At 20 years old, literally ran into a wall
Oh man.
and destroyed my knee and thus my career. But I will tell you, um, I use sports a lot as motivators and and to teach lessons. There's a ton of overlap. I know people probably roll their eyes by how many sports metaphors there are, but it was a blessing for me, quite honestly, that I got injured. I think in that world you could have toiled away in the minor leagues for years, and there are people that get on to their late 20s, early 30s, and they're never going to make the show.
Yeah.
And I got hurt very early on and was able to forge a different career and certainly going back to school and then a professional career. So I absolutely would not be where I am. It's a very small chance I would have made the big leagues. I would have probably still stayed professional, but at a very lower level. So great experience, but I think a blessing in some ways that I get injured. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And the reason I brought that up is because right now my favorite type of books are sports psychology books.
Oh yeah.
So talking about the
Yeah.
mindset of an athlete. And when I think about that from a workforce standpoint, it makes you think about culture, well-being,
Yeah.
self-development. And I know culture is your thing, so I'm curious to know what's your definition of culture in the viewpoint of, let's say, the workplace. And then I'd like to ask you an additional question, which is what's one of the most pressing culture challenges that you faced in your career as a leader in HR?
Sure. Yeah. So how do I find culture? I think, culture is how you behave. It's sort of the norms. We can give the Webster's dictionary version of what culture is, but to me, it's how you show up every day, what's tolerated. A lot of people forget that they look at a culture that might be toxic, for example, and they'll say, we have a toxic culture. Well, why is that? Because leadership approves it by allowing that behavior to exist. So to me, personally, I believe you can't have a really strong culture without accountability.
Mm.
That goes from top to bottom. And the best teams in the world, I'm a big New England Patriots fan. We're struggling a few years here, but hard to argue the dominance that that team has had, really all of New England sports. And
Yeah.
the one thing that was permanent between all the teams was the culture. The Patriots came in, I would say Tom Brady, Bill Belichick came in and changed the culture of the team, and it also changed the culture in the region.
Mm.
Um, all the other sports teams, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Red Sox, they all won championships around that same time, and
Yeah.
they all sort of bonded together. A lot of the leadership members of those teams, and it all came down to the culture. It was this is how we're going to behave, and this is what's going to be tolerated. But they held each other accountable, and so for me, that's kind of how I approach culture, and that's been again another common theme for me throughout my career is
Mm.
coming in and helping change the culture and either fix it or augment it or do something so that we can get to that next level. Because I know this is very cliche to say, but what got us here will not get us there. And once people believe in that, I think you're willing to kind of launch.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I love that philosophy. And one of the goals with this podcast here is to be able to speak with HR leaders like yourself, hear stories, and then almost format it in a way where it's almost like a playbook created from
Yeah,
something that you've done throughout your career, a problem that you first were faced with, kind of the steps you took to solve the problem, and then the aftermath. So if you could just
sure.
name one of the scenarios where you walk into an organization, there was a challenge,
Mhm.
and you had to step up to bat and take a swing at solving it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So one of the things that I've been drawn to is organizations sort of that mid-tier mark, that 400, $500 million mark, and going to a billion. So I've been very fortunate to help companies grow into that financial goal, if you will. But and every single one of them had a different playbook. One of the things I would talk to a board, for example, and they say, "Hey, what you did there, we need you to do that here." And I said, "Well, great, but the strengths of that company, maybe the weakness is here, vice versa. So I don't, you can't put down a playbook." So the one commonality I will say that every single one of my experiences had was a need to change the culture. Again, going back to what got you here won't get you there. We every single instance needed a recognition of, okay, what got us here? What are those attributes that got us here? What are the ones that we want to keep? What are the ones that we feel are part of our DNA? But what are the ones we need to throw out and replace it with something else that's going to get us somewhere that's going to be also maintained and sustained? And so that's probably the commonality. But I look at a company that I was at most recently, the opportunity I had prior to InterDigital, and I'll also talk about InterDigital. But when I was at Aspen Technology, myself and Antonio Pietri, when we joined forces, when he hired me, it was this acknowledgement that the company had gone through some success and then complete doldrums. I liken it to a car in the ditch and it can't get out, and he had recognized very early on that the culture needed to change. So I had a partner, right, in order to do that. So we were able to kind of take a look at what are those things that were ingrained in our DNA, keep those, but really do a complete culture shift. And it's very, very hard to do it without my colleagues on the executive team or the CEO on board. So I had that. It took a while. I mean, you're talking about turning this big, large ship in the middle of the ocean. So it takes a while.
Yeah.
But once you get people buying in and seeing what the vision that you're trying to create it starts to pick up pace. So fast forward a little bit, I had the company actually was purchased, and I had been recruited to join InterDigital, where I'm at now. And um, my CEO, Liren Chen, is amazing. He already knew this, so I was very fortunate. I didn't come in and need to start the wheels churning on a culture change. He had already done that. I give him a lot of credit, and the rest of my partners on the executive team. They had already started that process a year or two before I started, so I'm very thankful for that. I hear stories about what the company was like, 4 or 5 years ago, and we still have still a lot of the same people in the organization. The executive team, I think, is largely different, but the company, whether they were doing it deliberately or not, started to change the mindset and to be a winning organization. So that's again going back to the sports
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Changing a culture to a winning organization is really rooted in accountability and
Yeah.
kind of holding each other accountable. So what I brought to the table was really, okay, that's cool. How do we organize it? How do we streamline it and bottle it and sell it? How do we get, and we're still learning. We're a very small company. We're a publicly traded company doing very well, but we're small. And so the benefit there is you don't have, when you have hundreds of thousands of people that's that ship in the ocean needing to change. When you're a small organization, we have
Yeah.
450 employees. It's not as difficult. So, but it's still within the DNA and what people need to do and things like that. What do they have to join together with? What do they have to align on? And so one of the first things I did was, I asked, I mean, what are our values? What is it that we stand for? And to be fair, people struggled. People struggled with being able to answer that. They didn't know they're like, yeah, we know we have values. We don't know what it is. I said, okay, that's a problem. So that's the baseline, right? So let's all agree on how we're going to behave through our values. And that's where we started. And we changed them. We worked with not just, with my fellow executives, but we work with throughout the organization on what I call influence makers, influencers now, I guess is the new term,
Yeah.
within the organization to see what is it that we want to be. And it has to be a little aspirational. So we changed up our values a little bit, and now we're really driving that home, and you have to hardwire it into performance management, blah, blah, blah. You have to really make sure it permeates through the organization, through our values. So I think we're picking up steam there now. People are getting it and they're being rewarded. It's not just punitive. Like if you don't follow certain values, you get a slap on the wrist. It's when you really knock it out of the park, you're going to get rewarded for it, so it really means something to us. So anyway, long answer, I know, but I think that's what I brought. Those are the real good examples, I think, for any organization. I would tell anyone, listen, if you're looking to do a culture change, start with your values.
Yeah, this is so good, and thank you for sharing that. And you answered multiple questions that I was gonna ask her. So I appreciate you,
Yeah, yeah,
sharing the answer that the way you did, because I was curious about the people aspect of it. Right? You talked about the values, you talked about executive leadership, but there's also the people, the actual employees, the people on the front
yeah.
line, that are being managed. So when it comes to that, and something as crucial as a culture shift and culture change, culture transformation, how do you engage leaders and employees in the rollout to make them feel involved in that, and also motivated and inspired to,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, to take action?
I think the first thing is so a little bit about my personality. I'm a little bit of a contrarian. I like people who are rebels. I like people who kind of speak truth to power a little bit. I've always been attracted to those people. Martin Luther King, right? John Lennon, you name it. Hunter S. Thompson. People that just sort of are a little different and fight and have a purpose. So in order to do that, you have to give people psychological safety and you have to give them a voice. And whether you give someone a voice or not, if you're not letting them voice their opinions, then you truly are giving them a voice when you do. So I'm big on feedback. I'm big on allowing people to speak their mind, and it's okay to have different opinion. We are a world that is really divided right now, and so when you go to the employees and say, "Listen, we want to hear from you," whether it's an employee engagement survey, which I'm off and on those, to be honest. I think the companies that do it annually, it's not enough. It's like going to the doctor and picking a specific day to go to the doctor. Well, you might be great that day, you may not be. So I really try to infuse the continuous feedback loop within the organization. Another sort of sports analogy, right? My whole life playing sports, I got feedback not only daily, probably within the minute. If I was doing something wrong, I got feedback. I heard from my coach immediately. And so I was able to make adjustments on the fly. And you learn, right, as the athlete to receive feedback. But in the corporate world, we do it so seldom, right? And so I think that's something we need to fix as a society. And so we work on that to give constant feedback, always working to better yourselves and things like that. But you have to give the constituents, the employees, a voice to also say, this is what I see. When I did work in the manufacturing space, when we were trying to design a better workflow, you don't try to design it from your office up in the top floor. You go down to the factory floor. They know better than anyone what's the best process because they're doing it every day. So if you have that dialogue and you have that feedback loop open, and leaders have to be tough enough to hear the feedback. I tell my team all the time, I'm not going to have all the answers. I'll tell you right now, don't expect me to. I'm gonna get it wrong sometimes, and that's going to be okay. You're going to have to be okay with it, just as I'm going to be okay with some of the things you get wrong. So as long as we kind of have that understanding and that psychological safety, that's going to propel you to kind of make changes, and it's going to really bond everyone together as a team.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I'm very happy you brought up psychological safety, because from my lens as someone who's building wellness solutions to support HR, it's like I see either companies or leaders that are in two different positions. One leader who is proactive, meaning that they know that consistent feedback is important. And so they're
Yeah,
always putting programs together, putting events together, to create those spaces where employees feel safe or leaders feel
yeah,
safe to share what's really going on. And then you have the reactive leader who is seeing the burnout, who is
too late. Yeah,
seeing the turnover, and then now that that's happening, they want to bring someone in and say, "Hey, can you fix this?" Like someone like me, like, "Hey, can you fix this? My
yeah,
people are burned out." But they have to realize that it's when it gets to that point, like you said, it's too late, and it needs
yeah,
the organization needs an entire cultural transformation, and not just a nice to have to
yeah,
keep people around. And so
yeah. I'll
for
tell you.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, on top of that, to add to that, I think you need to, as a leader, especially in the wellness space, this is draconian, but a lot of leaders back in the day just cared about output and productivity, and that's certainly important. But I think to truly be a leader, you have to care about the entire person. What's that everybody brings something into the office every day, and they leave with something every day. And as a leader, I think it's behooves you, if you want to be real selfish, you got to get to know your people and the insides and outs and everything about them that you can, because you're going to make them a better employee by caring about their personal lives and caring about the things that's going on. Yes, there's a time and place, and you got to leave things at the door to some extent. But I've seen too many examples where leaders didn't know their team's kids' names, and it just
Mhm.
became so impersonal. And it's hard to really, I want people to run through a wall for me, and vice versa. So in order to do that, you've got to show, genuine caring for people.
Yep. Yep. 100%. I totally agree. And you mentioned the whole person there and just how the whole person needs that attention. And it makes you think about this framework that we put together at Blemish. We call it the 5 pillars of personal well-being. And the
Uh,
first step of that is awareness.
yeah.
Just first realizing that there's a problem. And the second pillar is alignment. Once that awareness is there, let's say awareness of values, then there's a inner dialogue happening. Like, hey, is this corporation aligned with my personal values?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that, that third step is the agency part. Okay, now that there's alignment, is there psychological safety and space for me to move independently, but also with a level of trust, right, from leadership? And after that, the fourth one is belonging. Once they
There you
are able
go.
to move, they belong in this sustainability. Now that human is sustained and also in a place where they can continue to thrive and build
Yeah.
from within the organization.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna steal those if you don't mind. It's funny. I don't think I ever documented what we did, but I have examples of in my sports days where where I played on some amazingly talented teams
Mhm.
and who never won. We didn't win anything.
Oh, wow.
And I've also had the pleasure of playing on teams where we weren't the best. We didn't have the best arms and the best defense and whatever, and we won. We still won because we believed in each other. We pulled together. We probably followed those
Interesting.
5 pillars that you talked about
Yeah.
because we had each other's backs. It was the little things, I mean,
Mhm.
maybe a little violent, but if someone gets hit in a game, who's the first one out of the dugout to stand up for your
Absolutely.
teammate? And
Yeah.
I've played for some teams where we were amazingly talented. I mean, everyone had unbelievable talent, but we just didn't connect. And everyone was in it for themselves, and we didn't win.
Yep. Yeah, it makes me think about trust. One of the previous HR leaders I interviewed on the first episode of this, he talked about how trust was one of the most important things and that he looks for as a leader and looks to build as a
Yeah.
leader. So that makes me think of that. And to follow up on what we were talking about, just this story of with your previous company, the culture transformation, talking about the values, of getting people on the same page. What shifted as a result of those changes of focusing on values, hearing from the people, and transforming the culture?
Yeah, I think, there look, one of the tough things as a CHRO to do is to get people to buy in, right? So when I said earlier that I run my organization very much like a sales organization, we are
Yeah.
selling. We're selling vision, we're selling a mission, we're selling purpose, we're selling culture, right? So we are selling, we're constantly selling. And anyone in sales will tell you if it were easy, everyone would be a trillionaire in sales, right? If it were that easy, you've got to
Right.
appeal to people's emotional well-being and their emotion, what's important to them at the end of the day. So I operate and ask my team to think about that. Don't think of yourself as as overhead. Don't think of yourself as, an expense line on the balance sheet. What we bring to the table is empowerment.
Mhm.
I look at it as, you could have the greatest car in the world sitting in the parking lot, but if you don't have fuel, not going anywhere. It just looks
Yeah.
nice, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what we bring. I know I probably mixed too many metaphors there, but anyway,
That's good. I have a
I
follow up. Yeah.
yeah, I just think to me it's bringing everything together, but it's hard, man. It is hard to get kind of everyone aligned. But what changes, and I will tell you, I'm seeing it now in my current organization, and hopefully this is my last organization I work at. I love it. Is we're winning. Winning is so, they say losing is contagious, so is winning.
Well.
And we're seeing a lot of and I again, he'll probably never see this, so I'm not kissing up. Our CEO, he is, whether he knew he was doing it or not, like I said, infused a culture of winning. We're really starting to look at how to win our deals and be proud of the technology we're creating. We've got Rajesh, who is is our technology leader, is one of the best minds in the industry. I've been blessed. I can tell you, I've worked alongside some incredibly gifted, bright people. Rajesh is right on the top of the list.
Mm.
So all that helps. So you have the talent,
Yeah.
but you got to make it work.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing. When you talk about it working, you talk about winning, it makes you think about the metrics.
Mhm.
And as an HR leader, someone who is get around people empowerment, right? What and you talked about earlier how you've been blessed to work with companies that are kind of in the phase of building up to be a unicorn.
Mm.
What metrics do you focus on, or yeah, what metrics do you focus on as a people leader, and how do they relate to just the overall, revenue and profit
Sure. Well, I'll
metrics?
tell you, it's a lot easier now than when I first started, when we were working on. I mean, I'm so old. I remember I had to share a computer for the internet. I mean, that's how old I am. But everything was on spreadsheets, and it used to be very difficult. I used to try to make that connection to human resources, human capital output to profit, and it was very, very hard. But now you can do return on employee. You can really start to. There's just the tools out there are really interesting to show that an increase in engagement scores brings this in revenue, so on and so forth. And it's just, you think about it. I mean, just basic logic will tell you if you have two salespeople, one is engaged and one is not, who's going to sell more? Probably the one that's engaged,
Right.
right? It comes into and in exchange that title for any other title. They're going to be more engaged. They're going to do their jobs better. So one of the things I've asked my team to think about, it's the same mission, is and it's like that here at InterDigital. We our vision is to enable people to do the best work of their lives. That means removing obstacles. That means putting in the right reward system. So as far as metrics go, sorry, my headset keeps popping out.
All right.
Uh, it's the standard, sure, we look at the cost perspective because you got to keep costs in line, but really what matters to me is the engagement scores. And we do quarterly pulse surveys as well. What the things that we're trying to put out in front of the employees, are they reacting in a positive way? And then there are things that, I can tie the things that we do, which a lot of HR people don't do, is you look at revenue, you look at customer retention rates. All of that is because you have people could say, well, we have the best product in the world. That's not what does it. It's the employees. People buy from an employee. They buy from a person that they've met. Right. And I know AI is probably going to change some of that, but we tie a lot of what we do to the business results and to the business outcomes. We do that quite a bit. I really try to make sure that people understand the connection between that. So KPIs, yeah, we do a lot of the engagement surveys, but we also look specifically to what you said about belonging. How do people feel? Do they belong? Do they have psychological safety? We kind of dig deep into that to really get an understanding of how people feel coming into work every day.
So good.
And I will argue all day long that it makes a giant impact to the bottom line.
Yeah, yeah. So good. That's super helpful. That's super helpful there. And you brought up AI. And so I
Yeah.
wanna dive deeper into that. How is AI affecting you, just you personally, professionally, and then how is it affecting your people? I know sometimes there's a fear-based
Yep.
perspective around it,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, like, is my job going to be safe, job security?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I know there's the productivity piece that is pushed by all of the AI builders.
Yeah.
So kind of how do you think about it?
Well, how did I know AI was going to come up? I'll tell you, one of the interesting things that's gone on in my career, especially the past 10 years, the rate of change has accelerated to the point where, to be very frank, the beginning part of my career, we would see new technology, and technology changes all the time, but things that really moved people and moved the way people operated probably once every 5 to 10 years. And for a while, the rate of change was happening every 3 months. I mean, we're talking about COVID, the Great Resignation, whatever buzz term people wanted to use, my function had to deal with it and be front and center. And AI is no different. When I joined InterDigital 2.5 years ago, I said, listen, folks, AI is not coming. It's here. So we have to figure out how to best utilize it to our advantage because those that do not are going to fail. I had a colleague once tell me the companies that learn the fastest win. And so we have two roles in this. We have one, how do we use AI to operationalize and better our HR product? And I've challenged my team to do that. What are we going to do to automate the things that we do so that we can learn and do other things, right? There's things AI can't do, at least not now. It's not very good with EQ. It's very good with IQ, very good with getting the data.
Right.
But, how to utilize that and prompt and all that comes from human beings. So my team's doing a huge, huge transformation with that for the internal, what we do on an everyday basis. But we also are stewards to getting the rest of the organization on board with AI, right? Again, a shout out to our CEO. Some CEOs were very, we're in the patent world, so we have to be careful with that. We have to be careful with what we create using AI. But our CEO said, no, we're going to embrace it and we're going to lean in on AI. And we've got some amazing AI talent in the organization already, but he opened the doors, what I call democratizing AI throughout the whole organization so that we can use it to better what we do. And I'll tell you a personal thing for me. So I'm dyslexic and also I have ADHD. And thus far, AI has been a game changer for me. It's one that has allowed me to focus more. It's allowed me to capture notes better. It's allowed me to move forward through presentations better. It was a condition I used to be very embarrassed about and thought it meant I was stupid and all these other things. And I grew past that. And again, as I talked about getting injured and playing baseball, I look at my dyslexia and my ADHD as a blessing because it allowed me to really hone in on my EQ skills. So I can read people very well, which is great when you're playing poker, right? You're not playing the cards, you're playing the man. So it's helped me in those areas. So instead of, being shy about it, I'm like, I'm going to lean in on this. But AI, it's allowed me to do the things I struggled with. I have a really hard time, for example, when someone reads me off a series of numbers. If someone gives me a phone number, it's like takes me 5 minutes. Like, can you go one at a time? It takes me a while to kind of get that. And now with AI, I'm using these tools that I fly through things now in a much, much quicker pace. And I'm a big reader, and so I read quite a bit. And for dyslexia, it's hard. But now with the audio and all the other aids I can use, I'm reading about 2 or 3 books a month now, and it's just allowed me to consume so much data and a lot of knowledge that's helping me in other areas of my life. So we're bullish on AI. We're leaning in. I get to being afraid. I totally get it. I got 2 daughters that are in college that are going to need to enter the workforce at some point soon.
Yeah.
And my advice to them is what I give advice to everyone in the company: learn it, know it, use it to your advantage, because if you don't, that's where you're going to truly get left behind.
Yeah, so good. Thank you for sharing that and for being vulnerable enough to share about your personal experience. I think that's super important, and it's one of the reasons why I created this medium, right? To hear stories like yours and to learn as well, right? I'm sure there's somebody that will hear that and say, "Oh, I have this too," or "I didn't think about that. Maybe I can use AI to read more books per month," right?
Yeah. It's not always easy. I write articles in LinkedIn. So a little plug, called Brace for Impact. And I've got one coming up. I'm still working on it. It kind of chronicles a little bit of my journey of someone with dyslexia and ADHD. And I had this line in there, which is, dyslexia takes the scenic route and ADHD makes it a roller coaster. And that's what it is. You're all over the place, but the thing, I always tell people, you need a dyslexic on your team somewhere because they're able to see things very, very differently from everyone else. which again leads me to the whole diversity of thought, which I'm a huge proponent of you want different people coming to the table that have different thoughts on something. That's where you're going to probably far excel and beat your competition. If you're just in a group think or an echo chamber.
Yeah. Oh, I just lost you.
Yep.
Okay, you coming back.
This thing pops out on me.
No worries, no worries. That's perfect because right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it for a quick break in action. I'm probably gonna put together some type of commercial because that's what they do on podcasts. And
Yeah.
then okay, and then we're gonna come back and I wanna talk more about your LinkedIn newsletter
Oh, sure.
because I read one of them about marketing for HR and it really
Oh, yeah.
started to me as a just innate marketer. And so we'll do that. We'll play this quick clip and then we'll come back and finish out the episode.
All right.
Oh man, what's up, bro? You got the book?
Yeah,
I'm good. Did you read it?
yeah,
What'd you think?
powerful, man. Really changed my perspective.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, check this out. I got something else that I think you'll like even more. This is called an affirmation bracelet. So basically what it is a stainless steel bracelet, eco-friendly, waterproof, anti-tarnish, and it has a positive affirmation on it. So you wear that every day, and whenever you're feeling down, you just look at your wrist, and it's a daily reminder to be positive.
Appreciate it, man.
No
Thank
doubt,
you
bro.
so much,
You're welcome, man. The last thing, I'm gonna tell you the real value is in the stack. And so I'm gonna send you the website, go on and get you another one, and then you can wear it the right way in a stack like this. You know?
Cool, I like that.
Yes, sir. No doubt, bro. All right, so we're back live with Skip Maloney, CHRO of InterDigital. We were just talking about your newsletter, Skip, called Brace for Impact. And there was one that I read that I really loved, and the title of it is Why Your HR Department Should Be Your Next Marketing Powerhouse. And I want to share a little bit. I'm gonna read a little blurb of it, and then I want you
Sure.
to talk more about this idea and your thoughts behind it. So,
Sure.
in here you said think about it. Marketing's job is to help acquire and retain customers by selling a product or service. HR's job is to acquire and retain top talent by selling a company's mission, culture, and employee experience. The parallels are not just coincidental, they are identical.
Kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this could, one could argue that this is my, frustrated salesperson in me coming out, but I really truly have always approached my role and my functions role as a marketing slash sales organization for many of those reasons, right? I look, so let's take talent acquisition, for example. It's one of the examples I gave in there, not just about branding, but, lead, I think I call it lead nurturing is, how many talent acquisition organizations internal are reaching out to passive candidates that they know may not be a candidate now, but could be down the road, right? So I always tell people you got to make sure you got to be really careful that you're treating applicants or you're maybe even people that aren't really ready to buy from you and come on board and apply for a role, treat them well. And also we have to treat people well inside the company because they're going to leave and they can become customers, right? So I think a lot of people kind of forget that sort of evolution of a candidate experience. So, but from the marketing perspective, like I said, the top of the podcast, I look at what we do very much as the marketing wing of a company or a marketing wing of the company. We sell a vision, we sell a feeling, we sell a purpose, we sell the point of being employed and being there, and hopefully it's some greater mission of building whatever product that you're doing or service, and people want to be belonging to that. And the one thing I do know about the human condition is people want to belong to something bigger than themselves.
Yep.
And so if you can tap into that, and if you can show people what that really means and show how they're going to contribute to that great song, the better. And so, I really put a big focus on branding. My team right now, Christina Clements, doing a great job with putting together an employer value proposition, which is to say, what are people talking about us outside the company? What do they know about us? And
Mm.
we control that narrative to some extent, you know?
Yeah.
What do we want people to know about us? And the one thing I have noticed, certainly when I was at Aspen Tech and certainly here, we had great stories that we weren't telling anybody. I walked around like, man, this place is great. Great people. Well, how come I didn't know about this company before? I mean, there was, when I joined Aspen Tech, I laughed. I said, I've heard of Aspen Dental, but I've never heard of Aspen Technology, and they were in my backyard.
Wow.
Uh, so there was some excuse, I think, for InterDigital. They were down in Philly. I'm from Boston, you know.
Mm.
I hadn't heard of them. I wasn't really plugged into the patent licensing space. But at the end of the day, I came on board. I was very pleasantly surprised that I had something to sell. I had a great organization to sell. I had something, and as you know, in sales, if you have a product you don't believe in, you're probably not going to sell it very well. But if you have a product that you truly believe in and have a passion for, it's easy. It's easy to sell. And our attrition rates, I will tell you, is historically low, very, very low. People aren't leaving the company. We're seeing a lot of success, knock on wood. But there's a shift, a mindset shift in the organization. I think people are really starting to buy into. So what I challenge my team from the marketing perspective is capture that, figure out what that is, do internal interviews, not just exit interviews, do stay interviews, find out what people really like about this organization, what they're feeling, what changes they're seeing, figure out what that is and sell it. Sell it. You know, get out there and evangelize what the InterDigital message is. And so and I appreciate you reading it. I think you're one of 5 people that read it. But no, I think there's a point to be made there. If one day I can look at it and say HR is the new marketing department, I'll be able to retire.
That's funny. No, I loved it so much, and it expanded my mindset, and it made me happy just as a marketer, someone who loves content, right? One of the reasons why I'm doing this, but also someone who also loves storytelling. And truth be told, reading that article, it gave me an additional idea for my product and my service inside of my company.
Nice.
And so I appreciate you for that, especially because I think it is important being able to just have the mindset of, hey, I'm telling a story.
Yeah.
I'm telling a story just with talent development,
Exactly.
with through focus on well-being, on retention, on trust, on performance. All of this is around story.
Yeah. 100%. And so I look forward to the residual payments of that. I'm glad you said it, and I've witnessed everyone heard you say it. So cool.
That's funny.
I'm gonna get rich on that. So no, look, it's we all steal from each other, man. We steal ideas, we get inspired by things. But
transfer. Energy transfer.
Yep. And I think the space that you're in is important because we all talk about the bottom line. We talk about the products really more than anything. And the products sell itself. They don't. They absolutely do not. They have to sell to people. And so if you can tap into what that is, what really motivates people in its purest form, you'll be able to build and scale companies. And I think that's the other part of what I do is I'm a big investor. I invest in companies. I like to grow wealth and I like to build wealth, but I like to build wealth for people around me as well. And I like to see them grow as well because I didn't have that to some extent, and so, how do we expound upon that and share that sort of vision with other people that build yourself up? It gives you options. It does this, it does that. But I try to relate my experiences. I know my experiences aren't everyone else's and theirs isn't mine, but there's some commonalities in there. And that's what the true marketing genius is when you can market something, there's something in there that appeals to a greater good and a greater audience. So what is that you did? You have to take some time and really think about it and really think about what am I doing and what's different, what am I addressing that no one else is addressing right now?
Yeah. So good. I love that. And you shared so much wisdom today. And I want to close out this episode, and I appreciate you for your time again.
Sure.
I'd like to close this by asking you what's one piece of advice that you would give to another CHRO or HR leader who is near a culture transformation, either in the middle of one or right before one. or maybe right after one, what advice would you
Sure.
give to a HR meeting?
I think first of all, buckle up, and I hope you have thick skin, and I hope you are a long distance runner. It's not a sprint, right?
Mhm.
So what I would tell people is be unapologetic about uh, propping up the values and making sure they're the right values. Some people say we're going to do a culture shift, and they keep the same values that they had before, whether they were followed or not. And the reality is, sometimes you need a shift in your values because it's these values that are going to take you to the next level. So I tell people all the time, start with that. Your values are the framework of any house, and if you don't have a solid foundation, it's going to fall. It's not. It's just it'll crash. It'll crumble. So the values, everything starts with the values, and I don't care if we're in the AI world and the AI era. It doesn't matter. You need values that people can buy into, because at the end of the day, values are human, right? It's not an algorithm. It's not a stack. It's not any of that. It's human emotion. It's behaviors, and people can connect to that. So be unapologetic about it. Evangelize it. Talk about it as much as you can. Put it up on the walls. And no, it's not just a plaque. It goes beyond that. But people need to see it. They need to hear it. They need to hear the CEO talk about it. You need to promote it. You need to reward people for behaving the way that you all agreed was, hey, we're all agreeing that we're going to do this together. And also, I think the last thing I would tell you is you need to have courage. You need to have courage to call people out when they're not following our values, me included. I mean, there's times I get ticked off about something and this and that. And am I being respectful? Am I in my right mind on certain things? And I need to be able to be vulnerable enough for people to call me out on that as well. So, yeah, that's the advice I give. Look, yeah, we've heard so many stories of CHRO saying it's a thankless job, and this, and it can be, but I see, when I see company success, when I see someone winning an award, I feel immensely proud. I feel part of that. I feel, rightly or wrongly, I feel like I am getting that award with them, because you're creating an environment for them to grow and to do the best work that they can do. So
That's so good.
so anyway, lots of hyperbole there. I get it, but stick with the values and start there.
Yeah, no, I love it. This has been such a great episode, so much insight and just a lot of fun. So I really appreciate it, Skip.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. And so let people know how they can find you. We talked about Brace for Impact on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to get in touch with you or and follow what you're doing?
Yeah, I think Brace for Impact is a good way. I just started that. I've got I don't sleep much and I read a lot, and I'm always working at I used to write a lot, and I'm just kind of getting back into writing. I've got but I will warn people, sometimes it's satirical. I've got it a little, I'm from Boston, so we get a little bit of edge to us, you know. But I like to have some fun, man. I like to mix it up. People that work for me know that. I will come up with a joke at maybe the right time or maybe the worst time in meetings, but follow me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to go. I'm thinking about going on Substack and all that at some point to do a little bit more long form writing. But right now, I think I have the most to offer through LinkedIn and through Brace for Impact, and it's Brace the number 4 Impact, and I'm going to be having a website out there shortly as well. And I want feedback from people. I want people to join in on the conversation.
There it is, and I highly recommend it. It's a great read every time. So
yeah,
10 out of 10 recommend it. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you everybody for watching. This has been another episode of the Leading Well podcast series by Blemish, and I'll see you on the next one.
See ya.